Hi, this is 1010 the Navigator, and I am reading from the Anunnaki Final Warning to Earth and Their Return in 2022, the 5th edition by Maximilien de Lafayette, starting on page 119. In 1947, a Grays spacecraft crashed in Roswell. 2 Grays died from the impact, but 1 survived. The Americans held him underground at Andrews Air Force Base. Strangely enough, a sort of friendship was developed between the Gray and the 2 American civilian scientists, something that we still don't understand, but there it was. At that time, the military and CIA were only interested in acquiring advanced military weapon systems, not in friendship with an alien. But somehow they became friends. The military kept everything undercover and did not even inform even Congress or the President of the United States. One general actually said, "Civilians and politicians come and go, but we, the military, that is our career. Therefore, they should not be informed, and if Congress will not be told, consequently, the American public should not be told either." That was the policy that was adopted on a regular basis ever since. According to the Anunnaki record and a revelation by Victoria, Ambar Anati, the Anunnaki official delegate, we have the following information. Victoria talking to another Anunnaki. "That is frightening," I said. "The military should not control the decision. Indeed, they should not. Look at the Miria, Sinhar Ambar Anati. Here is one of the first conversations between the surviving Gray and the 2 American scientists. Statement by Ambar Anati on record. On the screen, I saw an office, quite ordinary and simply furnished. 2 men in a gray sat around an empty desk. They seemed comfortable. There was no tension, as you might expect in such a company. Then, the sound came from the Amira, a monitor. One of the American scientists asked the Gray, "So where do you come from, and why are you here?" "We have been here for thousands of years," said the Gray in perfect English, though his voice had the unusual scratchy sound for his race. "We have our bases underwater in the Pacific near Puerto Rico and under Alaska's glaciers." "Thousands of years?" "That is so. We consider ourselves the first and the legitimate inhabitants and owners of the earth. You are not. We are here because we need natural resources that exist on Earth and in the oceans." "Seems to me this is not all you need, buddy," said the other scientist, grinning and lighting a cigarette. "This is true. We also need some live organisms and various substances we can extract from human bodies." "And did you get all you want?" asked the first scientist. "Yes, by and large. We need them on a consistent basis," said the Gray. "The natural resources of the earth and the water are regularly mined. The human substances are more difficult to obtain. We get them from the human we abduct." The 2 scientists nodded in agreement, totally unimpressed by the mention of the abductions. They really did not seem to mind. "What bugs me," said the first scientist, "is that we tried so hard to reverse engineer your spaceship ever since we got it after the crash in Roswell. We just can't do it. You have to help us decipher the codes on the screens we find inside the spaceship, and also the geometric and scientific symbols on the grids and the measuring tapes we found scattered around the spaceship. Our team is getting impatient. They may even threaten to kill you, you know. The 2 of us are friendly with you, but the team is getting ugly, and the boss is mad." "What is the point?" said the Gray, without even showing any emotion, not even fear regarding the threat. "Even if I teach you how things work and decipher all the codes for you, you will not be able to reverse engineer our technology because you don't have the raw materials. Look at this." From somewhere around his body, he pulled out a piece of metal. This is a very light metal, yet stronger than any material known on Earth. Yet this sheet of metal could float in the air, and it can be bent and folded like paper, and then open up on its own. Look, he demonstrated. The metal seemed to be indestructible. You must understand that we are willing to reveal plenty of information, said the Gray, but we can only do so if you will allow me to go home. I need to recharge my body. It's like a battery, you know. I will die if I stay much longer, and that will be useless to you. Let me go, and I will arrange for others to come back with me, others who know much more than I do. I am a simple pilot. I will bring you scientists. We have no intention of hiding this knowledge from you. On the contrary, we have every reason to cooperate with you and do some joint projects. And we can simply supply the raw materials and the knowledge of how to turn it all to your advantage. So since we're such good friends, said the second scientist, tell me, where exactly is the home you speak of? Since you have lost the spaceship, obviously, we will have to take you there. If I tell you, you will not understand, and you will not be able to take me there since it involves getting through additional dimensions. Our scientists constructed our bases, entries like that, as a precaution against intruders. But if you take me back to Roswell, exactly where we crashed, I will find my own way. How will you do that? Simple, said the Gray. When the spacecraft lands on a particular spot, automatically it marks the spot, scans it, and sends data to our mission control for identification and location purposes. Thus, we are never lost. If I can contact my people, they will come for me. But if you go away, how do we communicate with you and find out when the others are coming? In the spacecraft, there is a communication device. Let's go there. I'm sure it is functional because it is really indestructible. I'll teach you how to use it. We will contact my people from there and tell them about our plan. You will be there to supervise everything. Bring the boss too, just in case. The scientists looked at each other. They seemed rather pleased. Very well, said one of them. We'll come back for you later tonight after we talk to the boss. I'm sure he will agree to our plan. It will be a feather in his cap, said the Gray, using an old-fashioned human expression unexpectedly. The two scientists burst out laughing. And that was indeed what happened. They took him back to Roswell and left him there on the exact spot of the crash. They did not leave the area, though, but hid in a small canteen which was placed at some distance to watch what was going to happen to the Gray. In a very short time, a spaceship came, landed, and he went in. The spaceship took off directly and vanished into the sky. The scientists sent the piece of metal which the Gray had demonstrated to a military laboratory, and they called one engineer from Lockheed Corporation, and another from MIT to analyze the piece. Nobody could figure out what it was made of. Still prior to his departure, apparently the Gray did reveal many secrets of very advanced technology that American corporations started developing right away and began to use 10 years later. Many highly advanced electronic gadgets that American consumers have used for over a quarter of a century came from the Grays. And what happened then? A few years passed. Then a historic meeting happened. In February 1954, President Dwight Eisenhower went for a week's vacation to Palm Springs, California. This was a little strange, and many did not quite understand the timing because he just came back from a quail shooting vacation in Georgia. Actually, it was less than a week before his trip to Palm Springs. On the night of February 20th, 1954, the President of the United States disappeared. 2 vacations in a row was not his style, but he went anyway and arranged to stay there for a week. Now, a president, as you know, is always surrounded by other officials, not to mention bodyguards. He is never out of sight. But on the night of February 20th, the President of the United States disappeared. The press, which somehow was alerted despite all the efforts for secrecy, spread rumors that he was ill, or that he had suddenly fell ill, or that he died. The president's people were alarmed, so they called an emergency press conference and announced that Eisenhower lost a tooth cap at his dinner and had to be rushed to a dentist. To make it more believable, the dentist was presented to the people. He was invited to a function the next evening and was introduced all around. This, again, was strange. Why would a dentist be invited to such an affair? And why would the president's personnel take such care to make him visible to everyone? A cover-up. It was a cover-up for the president's real business. Eisenhower was actually taken to Muroc Airfield, which was later renamed Edwards Air Force Base. There, he met with the Grays. No president had ever done so before. The delegation of the extraterrestrials consisted of 11 Grays, 6 from Zeta Reticuli and 5 from Earth's underwater bases. But of course, this was not their last meeting. This marked only the beginning of negotiations between the government of the United States and the Grays. So the situation was no longer only in the hands of the military, but it went much farther. Eisenhower was the first American president to sign a treaty with the extraterrestrials. How was this meeting arranged in the first place? Before the meetings, 2 major black projects. In 1953, astronomers discovered some large objects that at first were believed to be asteroids and later proven to be spaceships. They were very large, but since they took a high orbit around the equator, they were not visible to laymen. The 2 projects were installed. One, Project Sigma, created to interpret the Greys' radio communications. 2, Project Pluto, created to establish diplomatic relationships with aliens. There were talks about other races that contacted the humans at that time, arguments regarding who the treaties should be signed with, and so on. As a matter of fact, the Nordics, a benevolent race, actually tried to prevent humans from getting into these evil treaties and wanted them to dismantle their nuclear weapons and abandon their road to self-destruction. But they were not listened to. The Nordics wanted the humans to go on a path of spiritual development, but what the humans wanted was military secrets, because those humans were so badly contaminated, they would not even consider a peaceful offer. And the treaty with the Greys was signed. It basically said that the aliens and the humans will not interfere in each other's affairs. The humans will keep the alien presence secret, and the Greys would allowed to experiment on cows and on a limited number of human abductees. The abductees' names would be reported to the U.S. government for control. They were not to be harmed, and they should be returned to their homes after the memory of the event was removed. But as we know, the Greys did not keep their promise and extended their experiments without telling the U.S. government. They would not be trusted and could not be trusted. But let's face it, the military people were treacherous as well. For example, there was an issue of the Gray who had that arranged. The second meeting in 1954. He came back with a delegation in 1954 and agreed to stay on Earth as a hostage of goodwill, on condition that he would be allowed the freedom to go back and forth to recharge himself. The last and that lasted for a year. But soon, the military, having learned a little about the vicious plans of the Greys and the excessive number of abductions that was not agreed upon, turned back on their word to the hostage and locked him up for 3 years. As a result, he developed extreme claustrophobia that eventually killed him, as they would not let him leave to recharge himself. This information about Grey claustrophobia was never known about within the circle of ufologists. United States Protocol on Extraterrestrials' Visit to Earth in 2022. Master Kanawaza spoke about a very specific protocol written by the United States government. In the Kitarat provided below, you will have a short glance at its contents. It might appear to many of you as a science fiction story or a pure fabrication of mine, or a crazy scenario created by others who are deeply involved with this issue. But those who in the past were part of the team of American officials who met with extraterrestrials and some of the military scientists who were currently working on joint extraterrestrials, interterrestrials, Greys, and the American Scientific and Esoteric Weapons Systems programs are fully aware of the existence of the secret governmental protocol on extraterrestrials' visits to Earth in 2022. Maximilien de Lafayette said, "It is up to you to take this subject into consideration or disregard the whole idea, but always ask yourself, what if part of it is true? If I was not absolutely sure and certain that the protocol indeed exists, and it is periodically and constantly reviewed and updated, I would have never dared to come forward and talk to you about it. You do not have to be an insider to know the protocol. Just ask any anti-garde futurist or an outspoken quantum physicist professor if such a protocol could exist. It is also my understanding that many fire chiefs of the United States at one time in their career have heard of or were briefed on the time in their career where they were instructed and given a manual on how to deal with extraterrestrials should a landing assumed a hostile invasion or a counter occur. It is also my belief that the United States government published in March-April 1954 an instructions guide called SOM 101, Special Operations Manual, Extraterrestrial Entities and Technology Recovery and Disposal. Some ufologists have claimed that the cover of the manual includes the date April 1954 and notes that it was created by the Majestic 12 group. This is not correct. The manual was never written by that group. What I do know is this, and this is the absolute truth. A group of scientists from MIT, Caltech, NSA, and the United States Air Force and top scientists from the United States Department of Energy came up with the first draft of the manual. A few years later, Reverend Billy Graham and two powerful Catholic archbishops in the United States were called in to share their insights and express their concerns. Part of what they had suggested appeared in the 15-page addendum to Protocol on Extraterrestrials' Visits to Earth in 2022. Master Kanawaza is a part of this, and part of his Kiryat did not address the issues of A, the inevitable crash with extraterrestrials, B, the mass hysteria, C, the aliens' asphyxiation effect, which is one of the United States government's major concerns, D, United States cities evacuation, E, the manual attack of the United States government counterattack measures against extraterrestrials' invasions, but others, including Ambar Anati, did. Master Kanawaza's Kazarats. An excerpt. Following the initiative of the United States of America, a few countries are consulting with each other on the protocol of extraterrestrials' visits to Earth in 2022, written by the American government. The American protocol is still in its infancy now. However, it is promising because it is addressing subjects of extreme importance. It is both a protocol and an instructions manual. The protocol part of it will remain in the hands of the governments, while the instructions manual will be made available to the people of Earth in 2021. However, leaks to the general public and the media beforehand are expected. Some of the issues discussed in the protocol and the manual are: 1, how an encounter with a species from outer space could affect the world economy and the Earth's monetary system. And it is our belief that this issue is discussed in an addendum. 2, the question of God, how to explain to human beings the nature of God, and mainly the irrelevance and the unnecessary existence of several organized religions and religious governing bodies. It is our belief that issue is discussed in an addendum. The Church of England, the Vatican, and the consortism of the Christian churches in the United States of America have joined in to draft the section related to the religious topics discussed in the American Protocol. 3, the Ba'abs, or stargates, are a major issue, especially to the United States, Russia, China, France, Great Britain, and other countries that are going to emerge as a global power on the world market. However, the military aspects of the Ba'abs mode of operation and ramifications such as intergalactic travel, time-space travel, antimatter, anti-gravity will be handled exclusively by the United States of America. 5, DNA contamination is another sensitive and extremely important issue. Human DNA contamination caused by excessive scientific and military genetic programs that are not in the best interest of humanity. 6, it is our belief that this very delicate subject has been a part of previous meetings between American officials and an elite group of extraterrestrials. 7, the alien-human interbreeding programs. It is our belief that this very delicate subject has already been a part of previous meetings between American officials and elite groups of extraterrestrials. 8, the life and existence of the hybrid race on Earth. 9, it is our belief that this very delicate subject has already been a part of previous meetings between American officials and an elite group of extraterrestrials. 10, how to handle a close encounter with 3 different extraterrestrial races that are going to play a paramount role in the future of humanity. 11, petrifying situations prompted by electric currents and the electricity stations and the grid shortouts during the landing of extraterrestrial ships on Earth. 12, the development of a global communication system jointly administered by the Anunnaki, the United States of America, China, Russia, and Europe for the purpose of informing the population of Earth of the landing, the purpose of the landing, and the areas of landing of the Anunnaki and their Merkaba, also Markaba, in several areas of the terrestrial globe. 13, this communication system will also be projected as a huge holographic screen that will appear in the sky at close proximity to the surface of the Earth, containing vital information intended to orient the people of the Earth. 14, you have to remember what we have said in the past about the remaining portion of the people on Earth, those who were saved, those who will perish, and those who will not be allowed to ascend through the Ba'abs. The ascension through the Ba'abs is their only way of salvation. And this concludes the reading of page 119 to page 132.